All right, okay. Kenneth Hollins here with HollinsMusic.com. I want to share with you today some of my favorite organ drawbar settings. I think it's real important not only that we learn how to play the organ in terms of the notes that we play, or how to incorporate your left hand and your foot pedals, and all that type of thing. How to use the Leslie switch. I think it's also important, excuse me, to know how to use and how to set up your drawbars. Okay, so that's what I want to do real quickly. I'm just going to share with you um, some of my favorite drawbar settings, okay, and the sounds that you get when you use that particular setting. Okay, if you have a question, this is live right now, so if you have a question, feel free to ask your question. Okay, all right, here we go. Okay, now this is a Hammond A102. I believe the model is a 102 or a 103. And I have 9 drawbars. Okay, that's pretty standard with the Hammond organs, which is probably the most common type of organ you hear now in gospel music. So I'm going to demonstrate on this one. Okay, so now my first drawbar setting that I want to show you. This is drawbar setting number one. Is the first 4 drawbars pulled all the way out to the number 8. Okay, all the way out to the number 8, and that gives you a nice warm, general sound. It's pretty flexible. You may want to use that, for like a soft song, or if somebody is talking and you want to play some music that's kind of smooth in the background, that usually works pretty good. You can use that setting right there. Okay, the first 4 pulled all the way out to number 8. Say for example, you want to play a song that's still kind of smooth, but you want to have it a little bit more edge in there, or just a little bit brighter. I'll use the same setting with the first 4 pulled out, but then I'll pull out this last white one right here, maybe to about 4. Okay, and notice how it added a little edge. I'm gonna push it back in. Okay, hear the warmth? I'm gonna pull it out. Okay, so notice how it added a little edge in there. Okay, so I would do that, and then you just pull it out to your personal liking. It's just like seasoning on some food. Some people like just a little bit of salt. Some people like a little bit more salt. Some people like a lot of salt. So just think of it like that. Use your ear and let your ear be the judge in terms of how much you pull it out. Generally, I pull it out to about 4, or if I want, a lot more, I pull it out to 8. Okay. Say for example, I even want even more brightness. I don't want it to get too edgy, but I want it to be brighter. Okay. The way I think about organ, I think about edge, I think about brightness, and I think about warmth. Okay, edge, brightness, and warmth. And I look at them like all different, they're not the same thing. Edge and brightness is not the same thing. Okay, but if I want more brightness, I'm going to pull this out. Okay, this white one right here. All right, to maybe about 8 or so. Okay. Now let me explain to you in my opinion, the way that I look at it. Let me explain to you the difference in edge and brightness. Okay, edge and brightness. Now, if you notice, and sometimes you can't really see it that well, but if you notice, these 2 drawbars right here are brown. I don't know if you can see that or not. They're actually brown. But these drawbars, you see them? They're black. See, these are black. These are brown. Okay, and I want you to notice how they're arranged. So you have 2 brown ones, 2 white ones. You have this black one right here, this white one right here, these 2 black ones, and then this white one. Okay, so think of it like this. On the organ, you have what's called fundamental tones, or tones that are pure I don't want to get too technical about it. They're pure tones. When you play a C, for example, let me see if I can demonstrate this. I don't want to get too complicated with this because this can get kind of deep. Say, for example, you play a C, right? And I have this first brown one pulled out. Okay, it's going to sound like a C. That's what it's supposed to sound like. Okay, but when I pull out this second brown one, notice it doesn't sound like a C anymore. It sounds like a G, but I'm playing C. See that? Okay, so I want you to notice that when I pull out the first drawbar, it sounds like a C. I'm gonna push the first one back in, pull out the second one. Now listen to the same note. It doesn't sound like a C anymore. It sounds like a G that's an octave higher. Okay. Now, why is it doing that? That is intentional by the people that developed this instrument, and they were brilliant. I've been playing the Hammond organ for decades. And just in recent years of me just kind of doing a little research and studying the instrument and even getting into understanding how it works, the electrical side of it, the people that made the Hammond organ were geniuses. They were. I mean, the Hammond organ is an amazing instrument. It really is. And I'm not trying to get into all of that, but it's a wonderful instrument. And the fact that you have a Hammond organ in pretty much almost every church. Not every church doesn't have it, of course, but it's so many churches that have the Hammond organ, and it's a reason for that. It's because this is a wonderful instrument, and the way that they set it up is you can really shape and tailor and customize your sound. And so I want you to notice some drawbars give you a pure sound, and then some drawbars like that, for example, it gives you what's called a harmonic of that sound. Now, I'm not trying to get too deep about this. It's a physics thing. It gives you a harmonic of the sound. So it actually gives you another tone other than what's called the fundamental that you're playing, and it mixes those two tones together to give you a different sound. Okay, now to the human ear, it only sounds like the fundamental tone or the tone that we're actually playing. So watch this. I'm gonna demonstrate this once more, and I'm giving you all of this so that you can understand. I'm trying to explain the difference between edge and warmth, edge and brightness. Excuse me. Okay. Now notice I'm gonna do it one more time just to demonstrate this. All right. The first drawbar sounds like that. Okay. That's the first drawbar. Now watch this. I'm gonna push it back in. Just pull out the second drawbar. Now listen. Same note. Okay. It sounds like a G. That's an octave above what I'm actually playing. But notice what it sounds like when I pull them both out together at the same time. What happened to the G? It doesn't sound like a G anymore. It sounds like a C that has a little bit more edge to it. Let me pull it back in. So I said all of that. I went all around the world. You guys excuse me. Sometimes I can be a little technical. And I think it's good and bad. It just depends on the situation. But I want you to notice that when I pulled out the drawbar, that was not a pure tone, but a harmonic. What it did was it added edge to the sound. It didn't make it sound like another note, but it made it sound a little bit edgier, okay? And so I said that to say, it's certain tones. Thanks, Lewis, man. I appreciate the encouragement. Hello, Carol. All right, we have some people live. You can say good morning. Let me know where you're watching from. Okay, you can ask a question if you want. Okay, all right. Now, I said all of that to say it's certain tones that are pure tones, and then there are certain tones that are harmonics. Okay, where it's not the actual tone that you're playing, but it's a different tone in the sound spectrum. Okay, so let me show you which ones are that, so you can know. All right, this first drawbar is a pure tone. It's a fundamental. It's a fundamental tone. All right, Texarkana, Texas. Okay, I see you. All right, so this first drawbar is a pure tone. This second one is a harmonic. All right, the second brown one is a harmonic. All right, let's keep going. This first white one is a pure tone. Okay, it just sounds like it just sounds like it's in a higher octave. All right, Georgia in the house. I see you, Carol. Okay, and then this one right here. Now notice, same note. Now notice what happened on this one. That's a pure tone, but guess what? So is this one too. The second white one, but it's an octave higher. So when I put them both together, all right, South Africa in the house. I like that. Notice when I put both of them together, it's almost like if you really listen closely, you can hear two different sounds at once. I'm playing one C. It sounds like I'm doing two C's like this, but I'm not. I'm just doing one. Okay? And so it's real important that you understand how it works and how all this stuff is functioning together. Okay? So okay, so we have this C and this C, they're pure tones, and then now we have this black one right here. Now listen to it. Whoa, so that's a fifth. Okay, so that's a harmonic. That's not a pure tone. So I want you to be conscious of that. The first black one is a harmonic. All right, the next white one. It's another C, but it's an octave above, even higher. I want you to notice that. Okay? All right, and then we're going to go to the next one. Whoa. Now, that's actually a third of, it sounds like a E, but I'm actually playing a C. Okay, I don't know if you ever noticed that about the Hammond organ. Okay, and then this black one right here. Okay, that's another fifth up an octave even higher. Okay, and then we get to this last white one right here, and it's way up there. It's a pure tone or the fundamental tone, but it's up several octaves. Okay, and that's a thing that happens in physics. You know, I'm not trying to do a physics lessons right now. A physics lesson. I'm not trying to do that, but I am trying to get you to understand how the Hammond organ works. So when they developed this instrument, they developed it to where they could do that. Okay, where they were kind of emulating what happens naturally in music. It's a very natural phenomenon. When you play a note, it's actually several notes in that note, and that's what actually gives us what's called the timbre, or the sound, or the quality of the sound. It's called the timbre, and a lot of times it's the harmonics that are actually in the tone itself, or the strength of the different harmonics. And I'm going in the deep. I'm going too deep. Okay, I didn't ask you all that. Okay. Okay, let's get back to these drawbar settings. All right, I said all of that to say that this is a pure tone, this is a harmonic. All right, good morning to you. This is a pure tone, this is a pure tone that is an octave above. This is a harmonic, okay, that is a fifth. Okay, this is a pure tone that's an octave higher. This is a third. Now this one right here, you gotta be careful with this drawbar, because it really add edge to what you're doing. Okay, all right, this black one. Okay, this black one is a harmonic, and then this white one here is a pure tone. Okay, so I said all of that to get back to, I went all the way around the world to explain the difference between brightness and edge. Okay, brightness, in my opinion, is when you have pure tones, and maybe I pull out this one, which is a pure tone, 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 and that one. Okay, and all of these would be the fundamental note that I'm playing, but just in different octaves. Okay, so then it would sound like this. So in my opinion, that's a bright tone. Okay, I'm gonna try to play a little bit. So in my opinion, that's a bright sound. Okay. Now, say for example, we want something that's a little grittier than that, something that's a little bit more aggressive than that. Say for example, you're playing behind a preacher, and you want to back the preacher up, and you want the organ to scream, and you want the organ to growl, and you want it to be real aggressive. Okay. Now we can start using these black drawbars, and then also this one too. Now this doesn't necessarily make it edgier per se, but it's not a pure tone, it's a harmonic. All right, but let's see what it sounds like when I pull these black ones out along with the pure tone. Let's see what kind of edge we get. Okay, that's where all the stops out right there. Okay, so that gives me like full maximum edge when I pull them all out. But the reason it's doing that is because of these black drawbars right here. Okay, so I said all of that to get you to understand that you're building little combinations of pure tones and octaves, fifths and thirds with the drawbars on the Hammond. Okay, so it's just good to understand that. And then what I would suggest is sit down and experiment, because really organs, that could be the same model but not sound necessarily the same. Like think of it like this: a lot of these organs were made back in the 1950s. Some of them were made in the 60s and the 70s, and they're still around. They're still going because people love the sound of the Hammond organ in the church, and I think they're going to be around a lot longer. So you got to take in mind, or you got to keep in mind, that some of them are not in real good condition. Some of them have not been maintained. An organ is just like a car. Well, man, we have to get you an organ in Kenya. You need an organ in Kenya. But an organ is like a car. You can't just drive a car and never do anything to the car. You have to change the tires sometimes. You have to change the oil. You have to change the air filters. You have to change the spark plugs. You have to put a fuel filter in there sometimes. You have to change the cabin air filter. If you want the car to function at its best, you have to maintain and service that car. And it's the same way with musical instruments. And I believe I'm talking to a majority of musicians right now, that you understand the importance of maintaining your instrument. A lot of people don't understand it. They think you just buy an instrument and just set it over to the side and just leave it there. No, you can't do that. And especially with a vintage Hammond organ, it's you have to maintain them. And a lot of those organs have not been maintained. They have to be oiled. They have to be serviced. There's a lot of things you have to do to them to keep them at tip-top playing condition. And so a lot of organs have not been maintained, so some of them don't sound as good as others that have been maintained. And so if you're playing an organ that has not been maintained, you have to know how to kind of cater and customize the drawbar settings to get the sound that you want. Now, I may go to one church that has a Hammond organ, and I play this setting right here, and it sounds bright, it sounds clear. I can hear it. It sounds good. And then I go to another church with a different organ, maybe that has not been serviced real well, and that same exact setting may sound muddy. It may sound dark. It may sound just a completely different way. And so by me understanding how drawbars work, I know that I can just kind of manipulate the drawbars a little bit and change it to get the sound that I want or the sound that I'm used to. And I don't just say, no matter where I go, no matter what organ I'm playing, I'm just going to always use the same drawbar setting. That's not the best way to think about it. You want to be flexible and know how to create the sound you want no matter what organ you're on, okay? All right, so I don't want to do a whole lot of talking. What I want to do is give you my favorite settings, and we'll be done, okay? All right, so setting number 1, first 4. Set number 2, first 4, the last white one pulled all the way out. Setting number 3, okay? First 4 and then the 2 white ones together. All right, I love that sound. Okay, let me see so you can see it. Love that sound, okay? First 4, this is the next setting, and then the next 2 pulled out to about 4 or 5, like that right there. That's a nice warm sound with a little mid-range in there. Okay, I love that sound. All right, now let me show you some of my special little settings. Okay, now if I'm going for something traditional, kind of like old school sound, and I'll pull this one out on you. The first brown one, and then the last white one. Come on, that's a little secret weapon right there. That gives you that old school traditional gospel sound. The first brown one, the last white one. Okay. All right. Now this is another one that a lot of people like to use, is where you leave the first one pushed all the way in, and you pull out all of the rest of them to the number 8, and that gives you the sound where you can do like that solo organ thing. That gives you that sound right there. And generally, when I use that sound, I usually put it on the top here, okay? On the top drawbar, okay? And on the top manual here. And then I'll chord with my my left hand. And so your right hand is freed up. Let me turn my percussion off. Okay. Okay, so whatever I want to play, in terms of a solo, I can use that drawbar setting right there. Okay, so that's that drawbar setting right there. And now this is something else that I learned that you can do. Now, and I learned this later. My go-to drawbar setting used to be, just without even knowing what the organ sounds like, is to pull out the first 4 and just start from there. Now what I have learned is to pull out the first 4 and dependent upon the way the organ sounds and the Leslie speaker sounds, to kind of push this first one in a little bit. It's almost like adjusting how much bass you have on your radio. I kind of look at it like that. Like you get in your car and you start playing a song, and then your car radio, you can turn the bass up or down. I look at this drawbar kind of like that, where if you pull it all the way out to 8, you got the maximum amount of bass that can come from that drawbar. But you can push it in a little bit. I want you to notice what happens to my chord when I push it in. I'm going to pull it back out, okay? Hopefully you can hear this. Okay, that's with it all the way out. Let me push it in just a little bit. Notice how it took a little bit of the bottom end out of that. Okay, if I push it in more. Okay, so once you push it in too much, it starts to sound a little thin. But the cool thing about that is you really can use that to your advantage. You really can, based on the way the organ sounds. Sometimes some organs sound too bass heavy or boomy, and you don't want all of that bass. You know, I play organs where it was too much bass. You know, the organ just was bass heavy, and so I would push that first drawbar in maybe like 2 notches or so. Not much because you don't want it to start sounding thin, but just a little bit may take out enough of that bass frequency so that you can get more of the sound that you want, where it's not too boomy, and vice versa. It could be real thin. Now this is something else I learned. Now, say for example, based on the quality of the Leslie speaker or whatnot, you know, say it may be kind of thin and you want more bass. Now, you may say, well, it's pulled all the way out to 8. What can I do? All right, check this out. You can go kind of reverse, where you don't pull this one out further. You can't go to 9 because it's only 8 that you can go to. So what we're going to do is push these in a little bit, maybe to about 6. And what it does now, it makes this sound like it's even more that's out. Now, you're going to have to play louder to compensate for the fact that you push these in more. Now, notice it sounds like it's a lot more bass, doesn't it? Okay, and I pull these back out. All right, so it's a lot of little tricks. It's a lot of little tricks of the trade that you can really try to employ and to use. Okay, so those are some of my favorite settings. Oh! I can't forget this one. I'm gonna show you 2 more. Let me show you 2 more. Okay, this is another one. This is real standard too. When you pull out the first 2 white ones, okay. Okay. Real warm sound. Now, when you bypass these first 2 brown ones and you use these 2 white ones, you have to play down an octave lower. Okay, when I pull out these 2, notice that I have to play an octave higher. So you have to be conscious of that, okay? But those first 2, I like to do that. And then I also, when I want to add a little mid-range to that, I'll pull out that first black one to maybe about 4. Okay? Want to brighten it up a little bit, pull that white one here out to about 4. If I want to really brighten it up some more, pull this white one out to about 8. Okay? All right, so those are some of my favorite settings. I hope that helped. I kind of hit on some things I really wasn't planning to, but I hope it gave you some things to think about as well in terms of the Hammond organ. Okay, love the Hammond organ. It is a brilliant instrument, and that's why it's still around for decades, and I think it's going to be around for decades more. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Now I have several more organ videos on my website, in particular mykeyboardconnection.com. If you're not a subscriber, it's a really great site. Mykeyboardconnection.com. That's the name of the website. You can go to the website and you can sign up for a month or 2, or I think the categories now are a month or 3 months, 6 months, up to a year. And you get full access to all of the different videos. I post on My Keyboard Connection pretty regularly, and there's a section for only piano. Then there also is a section for only organ, where it's nothing but organ videos. So I'm talking about how to set the organ up, going even further, talking about the vibrato settings, using the percussion, the foot pedals, using C1 through C3, V1 through V3, using all of that stuff, how to really use your Leslie switch, and then also several organ songs. So if you're interested in getting more for the organ, I would encourage you to sign up with mykeyboardconnection.com, and you can really check that out. I believe you would enjoy and really benefit from it. And then also you can go to hollinsmusic.com. Hollins Music is HOLLINS music.com. Go to our store section, and we have a lot of different videos that I really believe would benefit you. Okay. All right, guys, I really appreciate you all hanging out with me for a few minutes in this video here, and I hope you enjoyed it and it really benefited you. And so remember, HMPI, we're serving gospel musicians all over the world.